This is part 4 of the Houses of Achzib. I'm coming back to what I mentioned in part 1, and that is to specifically answer the questions I raised there, and that is to identify who the Houses of Achzib are and what they had to do with the judgment of the houses of Israel and Judah. And then I intend to go on and bring this up to our present day. In part 1, we noted that Achzib is also known in the scriptures as Kizib and Kozabar. And to refresh our memory, we read from the International Standard Bible Encyclopedia under the entry on Achzib, and it says, among other things, as highlighted here, it is also called Kizib, Genesis 38 verse 5, where Judah was at the time of the birth of his son Shelah. In 1 Chronicles 4 verse 22, it is called Kozabar. To recap, Shelah, the half-Canaanite son of Judah, was born at Kizib, Genesis 38 verse 5, and the name Kizib means false. Kizib is also called Kozabar in 1 Chronicles 4 verse 22, and Kozabar means lying falsehood. This place is also called Achzib, and Achzib means lying, false, deceptive. Kizib, Kozabar and Achzib all have the same root word, which is Strong's H3576, Karvaz or Karzab, depending on how you wish to pronounce it, and this means to lie, to be a liar. These are all place names tied to the lineage of the Shelanites. To be clear, the territory or tribal allotment of Judah, and then later the kingdom of Judah, included the place where Shelah was born, which was not too far south of Jerusalem. Now the kingdom of Israel in the north had within its borders another Canaanite city or town, if you will, called Achzib as well, and it was within the allotment given to Asher. See Judges 1 verse 31 and Joshua 19 verse 29. The Asherites failed to drive out the Canaanites from Achzib, and so there they remained. So there is an Achzib in the southern kingdom of Judah and another in the northern kingdom of Israel. They may be seen to be both related by virtue of their connection with the Canaanites, and this may also relate to the houses of Achzib referred to in Micah 1 verse 14. However, we cannot be dogmatic on this point, as it is not expressly stated in the scriptures, and furthermore, it is not necessary to have two actual places called Achzib in order to have the houses, plural, of Achzib. So what we have seen is the development of the family of Shelah within the whole nation of Israel, and they had grown up to be houses within Israel. Their place names, Kizib, Kozibar and Achzib, all have to do with lying and deception. Micah 1 verse 14 makes it clear that they shall be a lie to the kings of Israel. Micah was specifically addressing the Judah nation, but also prophesied concerning the kingdom of Israel in the north, because the same problems that were in the northern kingdom were to be found in the southern kingdom of Judah. Judah had learnt nothing from the failure of their northern brethren. There was a house of Achzib in the north with Israel, and there was one also in the south with Judah, hence the houses of Achzib, and there they dwelt with the king for his work, and they provided counsel which was false and deceptive and destructive to both houses. Evil counsel came from those who were by ancestry the Shelanites, who were from the half-Canaanite son of Judah. And so we see the connection of the houses of Achzib with the coming judgment on both kingdoms of Israel. The rulers of these two kingdoms had surrounded themselves with the wrong political advisors and helps. The result was that at a national level, they were making one mistake after another, and so on. Anything sounding familiar with this? The houses of Achzib were of a different sort from the children of Israel. Their true loyalties and affections were elsewhere, and while they were in Israel, they did not love the God of Israel nor the people of Israel. And this is clearly part of the reason why the judgment of God was to come forth on both the kingdom of Israel and the kingdom of Judah. We'll turn to the book of Malachi. Somebody once called this the book of Malachi. Malachi 2 verse 11, Judah hath dealt treacherously, and an abomination is committed in Israel and in Jerusalem. For Judah hath profaned the holiness of the Lord which he loved, and hath married the daughter of a strange god. The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob, and him that offereth an offering unto the Lord of hosts. Spiritually speaking, the Judah nation had committed adultery by being in league with other nations and following after their ways and their gods. Literally, they had also done the same. Solomon had married the daughters of strange gods. Ahab had done the same with Jezebel. However, this did start long ago when Judah married a Canaanite, the daughter of a strange god, and these things are not without consequences. They profaned the holiness of the Lord, who required Israel to remain separate. Verse 12 says, The Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob. Now, who might the master and the scholar be? Could it not be those who were near to the decision-making center of things, who had an influence on the leaders, on the national affairs of the nation, those who were with the king for his work, and most notably the Houses of Achzib were there. So let's bring this entire thing up to our present time. We start with the fact that God made a national covenant with Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, which was far-reaching in time and scope, recorded in Genesis 17 and many other places in the book of Genesis. This national covenant continued through Jacob's 12 sons, and this national covenant is still in place today, and it is in operation in the Anglo-Saxon Western nations of the earth, which are the literal lineal descendants of the Israel people of the Bible. As we saw previously, while God was making exceeding great and precious promises to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob and their seed forever, the Canaanite was then in the land, and the Canaanites are a cursed people. The position that I am putting forward here is that it does appear that there is still a remnant of these Canaanites in the land of Israel to this very day, and as Israel is in the west, that is in our Anglo-Saxon nations, we have with us here these people as well, and they are mixed in with the body of people called the Jews. It is plain that contrary to the commandment of God, Judah married a Canaanite woman, and from this union there grew up the family line of the Shilonites within the greater body of Israel. The half-Judahite Canaanite line of Shelah established itself as its own family line or dynasty within the nation of Israel. See Numbers 26 verse 20, 1 Chronicles 4 verses 21 to 23, and then also post-exilic, that is in relation to the remnant that returned from the Babylonian captivity. It seems that these people were also there. 1 Chronicles 9 verse 5 refers to the Shilonites, who are regarded by most Bible scholars and commentators as the Shilonites. Although the promise of the royal line kingship fell to Judah, as mentioned in Genesis 49 verse 10, it was passed to the sons born of Tamar. Tamar was from Shem, and her sons were Pharez and Zerah. It was through the Pharez line in particular that the royal Davidic line came through. Notwithstanding, the Shilonites were later to be found in the national headquarters of Israel. These Shilonites had some leadership qualities. They had dominion in Moab. They were also adept in business, notable workers of fine linen and pottery, and as we have already mentioned, they had made themselves indispensable to the king. There they dwelt with the king for his work. Moving along, by the time Jesus was born at Bethlehem, Edom was now also in Jewry. Edom, who is Esau, the perpetual enemy of God's people, the Jacob Israel people of the Bible, was incorporated into Jewry by their wholesale national forcible conversion to Judaism by John Hyrcanus about 125 BC, and from henceforth they became known as and were called Jews. We should also remember that Edom incorporates the Canaanites as recorded in Genesis 26 and Genesis 36, and we looked at that back in part 2. There was a terrific attempt launched by the Edomite Jew Herod the Great to destroy Jesus as a child, but this failed, as will all the attempts of Edom to destroy the Lord's anointed. Amen. This struggle between Esau and Jacob started in Genesis and continued on. It continued on through the Amalekites warring against Israel and carried on throughout the Old Testament and was clearly manifested at the time of Jesus Christ. This struggle continues to this very day. There are Edomites with us to this day. They're with us on this earth, and they hate the Jacob Israel people of the Bible, who are also on this earth and are seen in our Anglo-Saxon Western nations. This is going to ultimately be dealt with by God with the total destruction of Edom as recorded in Isaiah chapter 63. In 70 AD, we have the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans and the Jewish diaspora, where the survivors were scattered among the Roman Empire. Following this, we have the writing of the book of Revelation at about 95-96 AD, and in Revelation 2 verse 9 and Revelation 3 verse 9, there is a reference to them which say they are Jews and are not, but are of the synagogue of Satan, and I'm going to say a little bit more on this point shortly. Much later, in the 7th century AD, there was the wholesale voluntary conversion of the Khazar kingdom to Judaism, and this is where we get what are known as Ashkenazim Jews, which by far make up the bulk of world Jewry today. These people never actually set foot in old Canaan land, but in fact still claim it as their promised land. The situation in relation to Jewry is thus extremely complicated. Most would be aware that a large section of professing Christians today believe that the modern Jews are God's people, the Israel people of the Bible, and they support them irrespective of what they do, and this is a great shame unto them. They simply have not done the groundwork to find out who it is that they are supporting. But I'm not going to be going into that here. For more information, I recommend my series called Lazarus and the Rich Man, and part 6 in particular. Now, coming back to Revelation 2 verse 9 and 3 verse 9, we are twice told about Ginos, Jews or Judahites in name only. The letters to the 7 churches in chapters 2 and 3 have a threefold application. Firstly, the 7 churches in these 2 chapters, chapters 2 and 3, actually existed, and the letters deal with the problems that each of them were encountering. And this included the churches of Smyrna and Philadelphia, who were beset by those of the synagogue of Satan. Revelation 2 verse 9 is addressed to Smyrna, Revelation 3 verse 9 to Philadelphia. Secondly, these letters have a prophetic application down through the last 2,000 years, and while I'm not going to go into the detail of that here, you may go to my Revelation Remastered series for a full explanation concerning this. The point being that I'm trying to make is that down through the last 2,000 years, this problem dealing with these false Jews has continued at different times. Thirdly, the letters have a timeless application in that in every period down through the last 2,000 years, you will find churches that fall into the specific areas identified with the seven churches. Only two of the churches were commended, the other five were rebuked. Today, we are in the Laodicean era of the church, and the church world, by and large, is beset with a Jewish problem in that they do not know or recognize those of the synagogue of Satan. Those Jews who openly declare their opposition to Jesus Christ, and Christians, for the major part, seem to be totally blinded to these things, and they call and identify these people as the Israel people of the Bible. The result is Christian Zionism and a perversion of the scriptures in favor of a people that are set against Christ and his anointed. And this has serious ramifications as it directly affects the political situation in the United States in regards to their dealings with the Israeli state in the Middle East, where Christian people believe that the Jews are to be given carte blanche support for whatever they choose to do over there, because this is the will of God. The whole thing is turned around, back the front, and upside down. To clarify, I am not making a claim that there are no true Judahites whatsoever with us to this day. Of course there are, like there are of all the other tribes of Israel, and these people are typically all found in the West. According to the Bible, a true Jew is this, Romans 2, verse 29. But he is a Jew, which is one inwardly, and circumcision is that of the heart, in the spirit, and not in the letter, whose praise is not of men, but of God. Paul is explaining that a true Jew, a true Judahite, as we should understand it, is one who has been born again, one who has become a Christian, who loves the Lord Jesus Christ, who is saved. Not a Christian Zionist, because Zionism is a political ideology that originates with rank and file unbelievers. But a true Judahite is a Christian. Now, whatever a person may claim about Jews here and there, according to the Bible's own definition, we are to be looking for Judahites who are Christians. However, the majority of church-going folk today look to a body of people who deny the Lord Jesus Christ, and then they say, these are the Jews of the Bible. And the question we've got to ask ourselves is, who is right? Will God be true and every man a liar, or do we believe in the counsels of men? Ancient Israel had many faults, most of them of their own making, and if you want to find a particularly rebellious and stiff-necked people, then look at the Israel people of the Bible at a national level in particular. Israel's problems, however, were compounded because the kings of Israel and of Judah had within their inner circles the houses of Achzib, who were providing evil advice and counsel, which was leading them, the nation, further and further from the Lord their God, and which was also detrimental to the nation itself and its people. Ancient Israel wanted, or for whatever reason, they allowed these people to be there, these Shilonites, half Canaanite people, they allowed them to be there, and they received the consequences for this. And they bought their lies and deceit, hook, line, and sinker, and this was one of the reasons why God's judgment was coming forth upon the Israel nation of old. Is it possible that this problem spoken of in the 8th century BC is one and the same that we have with us today in our Western Israel covenant nations? Do we have those among us who claim to be Jews, that is, from Judah, who are with the king for his work, but who are of a different sort than the Israel people that they dwell among, They have a different allegiance and loyalty, and consequently the advice and counsel they provide is detrimental to our Western nations and is ripening us up for the judgment of God. In our day, it is a reality that there is a significant representation of Jews in positions of power and influence in our Western nations, and it is disproportionate to the population base that they make up. Most notably, they dominate the financial system of the West and many other countries around the world. As well, they have controlling influence on the publishing houses in the West, media outlets, and notably Hollywood. The historicist Henry Grattan Guinness observed the beginnings of this rise of wealth and power in his book called History Unveiling Prophecy, and in referring to the 1800s and the fall of papal temporal power and the wasting away of the Turkish Ottoman Empire, he made the following comment. He says, the wasting away of Turkey and subjection throughout the world of Mohammedan countries to Christian rule. And then he says, together with the marvelous rise of the Jewish race to wealth and power and the commencement at the predicted period of their national reconstitution and restoration to the land of their fathers. Now, to be clear, Grattan Guinness was very much of the view that the Jews were the Israel people of the Bible, and it seems that he had possibly no idea about Israel's identity with the Anglo-Saxon nations of the earth. Be that as it may, the point is that he noticed a clear rise in the wealth and the power of the Jews during a pivotal point in world history, that being the time of the collapse of both papal power in the West and Ottoman power in the East. It is within this same period, June 1815 in fact, that the Rothschilds were propelled into the front running as the dominant family in world finance. In the book The Rothschilds, The Financial Rulers of Nations by John Reeves, 1887, the writer describes how that Nathan Rothschild, a Jewish banker, Rothschild means red shield, how he speedily returned from near the Battle of Waterloo to the English Channel and there hired a boat at excessive cost and crossed the English Channel in stormy weather, and from there he rushed to the London Stock Exchange appearing muddy and dejected, and there he passed out the word that Wellington had been defeated at Waterloo, and he reinforced all of this by ostentatiously dumping stocks on the market. This created a tremendous panic at the London Stock Exchange, and everyone dumped their stocks at sacrifice prices. In the meantime, Nathan Rothschild, through his agents, secretly bought those dumped stocks. Now, many people seem to regard this as some kind of clever act of business, but of course, it was fraud and deception. Things such as this propelled Jewish families to the front and center of world finance, not for loans to buy a house or start up a business, but loans to run an empire and carry war to the ends of the earth. Extreme wealth and influence. Having regard for the Rothschilds and the dominance of Jewish families in world finance, in my opinion, it is extremely interesting to note that the name Canaanite refers to and is synonymous with a merchant, a peddler, a trafficker. Canaanite is in the Concordance Strong's H3669, and by implication it means a peddler, merchant, trafficker. Apparently they were the financial giants of the time, the top businessmen, the great merchant men of the earth back then. They were motivated by greed and lust for the accumulation of earthly and material wealth. Does anything jump out at you concerning this? Does it not seem that this trait has carried down through the ages? The Rothschilds are at the pinnacle of the merchantmen of the earth. Rothschild, not their original Jewish name, means red shield, and while this is a definite tie-in with Edom, whose name means red, there appears this Canaanitish trait as well. In Genesis 25, Esau, by all accounts, traded poorly. He traded his birthright for a bowl of red pottage. He's called a profane person in Hebrews 12, being a worldly, materialistic man who would take that which was holy and precious and put a price on it. One suspects that the trading ability of this family subsequently improved with his intermarriage with the Canaanites, and now while that which is holy and precious is still very much for sale, the asking price is a lot higher. Yet there is even more to add concerning this Canaanite name. As shown here in the concordance, Canaanite is Strong's H3669, meaning Canaanite, merchant, trafficker. And Strong's H3669 is derived from Strong's H3667, Canaan. No surprises with that, but Canaan carries with it the thought of humiliated. In addition, Strong's H3667 is from the root Strong's H3665, Cana, which means to bend the knee, to humiliate, vanquish, bring down, into subjection, under, humble. This is very striking. Putting this all together, we can derive the meaning that the Canaanites are the merchantmen who humiliate. Now, what do you know of or think of the financial system that we have in this world? This debt-based usury system that keeps the masses in bondage. Various meanings have been put forward concerning the word mortgage, and one of them is that mortgage means death grip. And a great many people in this world are bound by mortgages to their graves. We have a fiat money system where the notes and coins we have in our pockets have no intrinsic value whatsoever and are not backed by anything of value. The value of the dollar notes and coins we have was once backed by real gold and silver. Now it's backed by absolutely nothing but a government that says it's worth something. We have a money system which humiliates us, which keeps us under subjection, which keeps us bowing the knee to the great merchantmen of the earth. The connection between all these things seems so obvious that it can't be ignored. This is the very thing we have today, and the domination of the merchantmen of the earth is only increasing, and we are being brought down very low. In the Gospels we read of Jesus coming to the temple, and there he saw that the Jews had turned it into a house of merchandise. They were selling access to God and making loads of money out of it. John 2 verse 13. And the Jews' Passover was at hand. Note, it wasn't the Lord's Passover as it once was. It became the Jews' Passover. And Jesus went up to Jerusalem, and he found in the temple those that sold oxen and sheep and doves and the changers of money sitting. And when he had made a scourge of small cords, he drove them all out of the temple, and the sheep and the oxen, and poured out the changers' money, and overthrew the tables. And he said unto them that sold doves, Take these things hence, make not my Father's house an house of merchandise. In my opinion, it seems highly likely that the Jewish religious rulers were contaminated with both the Canaanite merchant expertise together with Esau's profanity in putting a price on that which was holy. In Genesis 27, we have the record how that Esau lost the blessing of God through his father Isaac as a result of the subterfuge of Jacob. Jacob did not ever need to strive concerning this blessing because it was already his by the declaration of the Lord himself. However, Jacob, like you and I, sometimes failed to believe, and so took things into his own hands, and the result was that the whole thing was complicated, unnecessarily so. Esau begged his father for a blessing, but it was too late. The best had been passed to Jacob, and this was irrevocable. Nonetheless, a prophetic utterance was given to Esau by Isaac, and we pick this up in Genesis 27, verse 39. And Isaac his father answered and said unto him, Behold, thy dwelling shall be the fatness of the earth and of the dew of heaven from above, and by thy sword shalt thou live, and thou shalt serve thy brother. Remember, the prophecy was the elder shall serve the younger. Esau would serve Jacob. But then the prophecy goes on, and it shall come to pass, when thou shalt have the dominion, that thou shalt break his yoke from off thy neck. And Esau hated Jacob because of the blessing wherewith his father blessed him. And Esau said in his heart, The days of mourning for my father are at hand. Then will I slay my brother Jacob. It is my view that we are experiencing the fulfillment of this prophecy in these modern times. Esau has the dominion, and the yoke of Jacob has been thrown off. Jacob is now underfoot and humiliated. The ultimate aim is the same as it once was, as Esau said in his heart, Then will I slay my brother Jacob. And this is why Christianity, which is seated in our Western Anglo-Saxon Israel nations, is under a terrific assault. The aim is to destroy the seed of Jacob and Christianity with it. But this will fail. Esau will fall, the houses of Achzib will be destroyed, the Lord will cut off the man that doeth this, the master and the scholar, out of the tabernacles of Jacob. Revelation 18 tells us of the downfall of Mystery Babylon. Thus with violence shall that great city Babylon be thrown down, and shall be found no more at all. It also speaks of the merchants of the earth who are within the Babylonian system, losing everything. It says, For thy merchants were the great men of the earth. The Rothschilds are among the great men of the earth, being chief among the merchants in Mystery Babylon. Politically speaking, they were instrumental in working with and counselling the British government to hand over Jerusalem to the Jews if they were successful in wresting it from the hands of the Turks. Here is a copy of the famous Balfour Declaration from 2nd November 1917, which was issued shortly before Jerusalem was taken by the British and Allied forces. It's addressed to Lord Rothschild, which at the time was Lionel Walter Rothschild, and after the introduction it says, His Majesty's Government view with favour the establishment in Palestine of a national home for the Jewish people, and will use their best endeavours to facilitate the achievement of this object, it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine, or the rights and political status enjoyed by Jews in any other country. Apart from the British subsequently handing over the place to the Jews, nothing was ever done in the least bit concerning promises made to the Palestinians and other peoples in that region, and as set forth in this declaration, that it being clearly understood that nothing shall be done which may prejudice the civil and religious rights of existing non-Jewish communities in Palestine. And the Palestinians have paid for it ever since. Evil and mischievous counsel was employed, and the king of Israel was deceived, led down the garden path, and there has been nothing done to ever correct the situation. This is the end of part 4.